is overperforming candidate Trump from 2016, holding on to key swing in Ohio and Florida that Democrats had hoped to flip.
We won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot.
The president relying heavily on an influx of election day voters, part of his get out the vote strategy, and drawing new voters sympathetic to his message, many of them from rural counties. Among the president's biggest gains with Latinos, especially Cuban Americans in South Florida. Evidence his attacks on Joe Biden as socialist resonated. Last evening, speaking immediately after the president, saying he wanted all the votes, declaring victory, but simply saying he thinks they're on the path to victory.
Yeah, it's been remarking on it. It's interesting because right now it's anyone's race to have. It's very, very close. The president might win, Joe Biden might win. So, talking about lawsuits and all that seems a little bit premature.
Sure does. We're going to move over to the Biden camp. Now we got NBC's Kristen Welker covering it for us. She's in Wilmington, Delaware. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, Hannah and Savannah, good morning to both of you. Well, the Biden campaign is striking a defiant note this morning after those remarks by President Trump. The campaign manager releasing a statement overnight that really echoed something that we heard from the vice president. Let me read you part of that statement. It says, we repeat what the vice president said. Donald Trump does not decide the outcome of this election. Joe Biden does not decide the outcome of this election. And the Democratic process must and will continue until its conclusion. Now, Biden, for his part, made very similar comments. He sounded very confident that ultimately he will prevail.
With the results in several states too close to call, Joe Biden projecting confidence overnight that once all the votes are counted, he will come out on top.
I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election.
Biden addressing a drive-in crowd in the early morning hours, saying he is now focused on rebuilding the so-called Blue Wall, which fell in 2016. Wisconsin, Michigan, and the crucial battleground of Pennsylvania, where both campaigns have spent significant time and money, and where ballots are still being counted.
It's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. We're talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see.
The former vice president failing to flip two states on the campaign's wish list, reliably read Texas and Florida. That's despite multiple visits to the Sunshine State by Biden and his former boss, Barack Obama.
I need you to cast your ballots.
Exit polls show Biden underperformed in a key voting group, Latinos, including the large Cuban American population of Miami-Dade County. But Biden remaining emboldened with a strong showing in Arizona, a state that helped send President Trump to the White House 4 years ago. Still too early to call. Biden also closely watching an unexpected battleground, Georgia, which hasn't voted for a Democrat in a presidential election since 1992.
We're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not what we expected.
Biden trying to set the narrative by addressing the country before President Trump and telling his supporters the election is not over until the final vote is counted.
As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome.
Now, Biden has signaled we will likely hear from him again today, but no details yet on when or where that may happen. Meanwhile, the campaign has said it has been prepared for legal challenges for quite some time and says it's ready to deploy a team of lawyers when and if that may be necessary.
All right, Kristen Welker for us there in Delaware. Kristen, thank you.
Whenever you're talking about the lawyers and deploying lawyers on both sides, Chuck, you know we've reached that moment that we were hoping to not reach. By the way, Casey Hunt also joining us to talk about what's happening on the Hill. So take us through the map, because a lot of folks maybe just...
Let's catch up. That's exactly. Wisconsin is something in the last 3 hours. We got some vote out of Milwaukee, and you can see here, some vote is trickling in. Even in the last 45 minutes, Joe Biden's lead is gone from about 7,500 votes to 11,000. So he's really blowing the doors off here, right? And look, it's the assumption is, and I say assumption is not a guess, most of what's being counted is stuff that was voted by mail. And we know statistically that's likely to lead Democrat. But again, we heard Gabe Gutierrez said, I think Green Bay's coming in. Well, Green Bay is in Brown County up there. I love my Packers. It's a Republican-leaning area. But it's Democratic, so, but you don't know, and so you don't want to make any judgments there. So Wisconsin, look, this is, trust me, we're going to get the recount rules going here. I have a feeling.
I think you have to request it. I looked them up.
Then we're going to have to know that one. Let's go to Michigan. You heard Claire McCaskill has some confidence there. We'll see, as you see, as the numbers have come in, this is really tightened. It was a 4-point spread, I believe, when we started at 6 a.m. this morning. We're now down to less than a percentage point. The difference is just 45,000. We can tell you, it's all mail-in vote. I mean, we've been monitoring that all night, and we know there's a lot more.
The orange is the mail-in vote, the yellow is the day of vote.
And we know that there's still, look at this, there's still over about 850,000 votes to count, and there's a 45,000 vote difference. This is why Democrats feel, I would say, cautiously confident about Michigan. And by the way, Casey, in case you're wondering, the Senate race and the presidential in Michigan are starting to align. And that is not good news for John James, who needs to overperform Donald Trump by a point or two.
John James is a Republican challenger.
Challenger to Gary Peters, the Democratic incumbent there, is trying for a second term. It does look like those two are going to go together. And then we got Pennsylvania, and let's just be honest here. This is a lot of ground for him to make up, and yet there's a lot of votes still out there. Nearly 1.8 million uncounted.
And where are
votes.
those coming from?
Everywhere. Okay, I mean, again, it's in the mail, so we know, due to all the great polling that we all trust these days, we know, but we're pretty confident that there is a Dem lean to the mail-in ballots. We don't know by how much. It could be by a great deal. We know that there's, Allegheny County, Scott County, they won't start till 10 o'clock this morning. Pennsylvania is something, votes going to trickle in all day long. This, maybe we're all going to get comfortable getting to know Pennsylvania a little bit. But let's see, it's a lot of vote to make up, but there's a lot of vote to go. By the way, Maine, because that 2nd congressional district could come in. Biden's going to win 3 of these electoral votes. This lead keeps expanding as it slowly comes in. Well, let me just show you what's going on here with the congressional district vote. Hang on here. There it is.
You have to ask nicely.
I know. It's cranky too. So here's our 2nd congressional district, and even as this vote has come in, I have not seen this margin shrink that much. Yes, it's 15,000 votes, but this is a very rural district. We still got a ways to go. But it looks like Trump's got a good shot at keeping that. And look, that Maine 2nd congressional district is working class folks. In some ways, it matches every other Trump area that we've seen in any other state.
Can you swing out west? It gets to the Sun Belt states.
We'll do that. We'll start out in Nevada. This is where we've gotten the vote most recently. We talked to John Ralston, our reporter, contributor from, who's the editor of the Nevada Independent, and he still thinks, he said the remaining ballots are mail-in ballots. They're from the 2 big counties, particularly Clark County. So it should be, and as he said, the Democratic machine, but look, it's a 7,600 vote gap here. Again, what's left appears to be advantage Biden, just like we said before, and this we haven't been able to sort the difference between the same day and the early registration. So this is one where, I trust John Ralston. He knows his stuff, but that's a very narrow vote gap there. And then very quickly, we've got Arizona. Come on, guys. Let's get to Arizona. There we go. We haven't gotten any new vote in here in a few hours. That's going to be a while. There's a reason there's that. And then in Georgia, we haven't gotten any new vote in yet either. But we do expect this to continue to narrow. We'll see.
Well, there are so many contested races, we barely got to spend our time with Casey, but don't worry, because we've got hours and hours of coverage. But real quick, I think we misspoke at the top of the show, because in fact, Democrats at this moment seem to have reduced their majority, lost some seats in the House, and the Senate looks to stay in Republican hands, although the votes are still being counted.
We've called the House
Yes,
for
although
Democrats, so
the
we
votes are
believe
still being
Nancy
counted.
Pelosi is still
We've called
Speaker
the
at
House.
the end
Yes,
of the day.
although the votes are still being counted.
This is not what we expected going into the night. And we were pretty sure, certainly all of my sources were saying, both Republicans and Democrats, that Democrats were going to add to their majority in the House. And overnight, while we are still, these votes take a long time to count. The kind of way we look at them just takes a while. So we're not going to know how many seats, but all of my sources are now saying they think Republicans are going to pick up a couple of seats. And very quickly, Savannah, one thing I'm watching, Chuck was going through Pennsylvania. We're going to learn a lot about it. I grew up in Chester County, which is outside. It's a Philadelphia suburb that's really switched from red to blue over the last decade or so. We're expecting potentially to get a big batch of votes. My sources are telling me there, maybe around 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning. That's a place where if you see a very strong Biden margin, he really needs it to be very strong in the suburbs to actually have a hope of ending up winning Pennsylvania.
Because there's a wide margin right now. At the moment, the president ahead, but there are a lot of mail-in votes to count in Pennsylvania.
Stacey, Jeff, stick around. We got a lot more ahead. What's the situation in those key swing states that are still up for grabs? We're going to have more on all of that. We're going to speak to, take you to 3 of them live. But first, these messages.
Washington feels more chaotic than ever. It's my job to ask the tough questions, left and right, and help you make sense of it all.
You ready to go to work?
I'm so ready to go to work.
She's Joe Biden's choice to be next in line. But who is Kamala Harris? Join me, Joy Reid, as I explore her life's journey from Oakland to Washington on my 6-part podcast, Kamala, Next in Line. New episodes every Monday. Subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
President Trump and Joe Biden hit the center of this campaign, coronavirus history. The battleground blitz as we enter the final stretch of the 2020 race.
From every angle.
If you were sitting here talking to Joe Biden and President Trump, what would you want to tell them right now?
On the ground.
The wind spanning these flames are expected to last another 24 hours.
And in depth.
We now have 2 vaccine trials on hold. Should people be concerned?
NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good morning, welcome to Today. We're glad to have you with us.
This fall, we are right there with you, whether you're back to school
What do you guys think, Nixon?
or back to work. We're keeping you safe.
I love you back.
Every morning on Today.
Police murder of unarmed black men has been an American way of death across centuries. After seeing the most comprehensive police reform bill ever introduced in Congress, I've begun to wonder if now is the time. If now is the time that protesters finally win.
The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Weeknights at 10 on MSNBC.
We're back 7 to 17 on this morning after the presidential election. Some people just still blending in. It's one long day. The race that remains still up in the air.
A lot of erudite folks. I've been getting texts from people who've been up all night, and the reason, because the votes are still being counted in those crucial battleground states. We've been beating the drum on those throughout the campaign. We knew they were going to be tight. We didn't know they were going to be this tight. So we've got reports from 3 of them. Let's go east to west. We're going to start with NBC's Stephanie Goss. She's in Philly, in Pennsylvania, where they've got a lot more votes to count, but the margins for the president are looking very positive for him.
That's right, Savannah. I mean, a lot of that is the count from the western part of the state. You know, during presidential elections, the mantra used to be Florida, 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 but that has clearly changed. And there's a very good chance this entire election could come down to what's happening here in Pennsylvania. Overnight, Governor Tom Wolf hit back at the president and called for the counting to stop. He said that is a partisan interference in this election. They are still counting here in Philadelphia. It's happening at a furious pace. 10 to 14,000 votes an hour, but there are places where it stopped, and one of those places, one of the biggest districts in the state, Allegheny County, they went home, and they're not coming back until 10 o'clock. Now, it's going to come down to these mail-in ballots, as you've been talking about. 2.5 mail-in ballots have been received. Only 1.1 million of those mail-in ballots has been counted. That's less than half. So the governor, with a message to the people here and around the country, please be patient. This is going to take a while. Savannah?
All right, Steph, thank you.
A lot of those poll workers busy from 7 in the morning till 2 a.m. They probably want to be accurate. They want to be rested when they count.
Of course.
So we want accuracy over speed. All right, Wisconsin's another swing state that remains too close to call. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez with the snap from Milwaukee. Hey, Gabe.
Hey, hello, good morning, Wolfie. you believe the pollsters, it wasn't supposed to be this close, but it is. We're right now awaiting absentee ballots from Green Bay a short time ago. We got the absentee ballots from Milwaukee giving Joe Biden a slight edge, but certainly still a very close race. I'm standing in front of a drive-through testing site here in Wisconsin, and we have spoken with voters over the past couple of days. They say the coronavirus pandemic, obviously a huge issue in Wisconsin with the dramatic rise in cases here. Also another huge issue, law and order. We spoke with many Trump supporters over the last several days that say that his campaign message of law and order has resonated with him, especially in the Kenosha, Wisconsin area. But again, right now, we are awaiting those absentee ballots from Green Bay. President Trump won Wisconsin by less than 23,000 votes 4 years ago. Right now, the margin separating Joe Biden and Donald Trump is much less than that.
Yeah, real nail biter there. All right, Gabe, thanks. So let's go out west. The great state of Arizona, my home state. Gotti Schwartz has been watching the count there. He's in Phoenix, which is telling the tale at the moment, but all the votes are not in, or let's put it this way, they're not counted, right, Gotti?
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, Savannah. We know a little bit more about those ballots that are still uncounted. Maricopa County election officials say that they are done counting all of the early votes that came in before Election Day, and that the ballots that were cast on Election Day have also been counted. But the big chunk still left are the mail-in ballots that were dropped off on Election Day. Still, Biden has a sizable lead here with over 82% reporting. And if Arizona does go blue, we're not talking about just a light blue. We are talking about the potential for two senators that are Democrats from Arizona. We are talking about a presidential candidate. We're also talking about the possibility of the legalization of recreational marijuana in the state of Barry Goldwater. So there are a lot of things going on, but it's not necessarily a reflection of the true political demographics here. We still know that Republicans outnumber Democrats. This is more of a nudge from the sizable independent population here in Arizona. They make up about a third of the electorate, but of course all those numbers are still to be gleaned from those returns that we see. We know that they're still counting those returns. We are hearing that there could be another data drop coming at 7 p.m. tonight, but a lot of people are hoping that it's a lot earlier than that. Back to you guys.
Gotti, thank you very much.
All right, let's take a pause, shall we? We'll take a breath from the elections.
It's Roker time.
Thank God. All right, Mr. Roker.
You may not be happy about this either. You got tropical storm. It's 2020. Get off my back. Anyway, 90 miles west of Puerto Cabeza, Nicaragua. Yes, 60 miles per hour, moving west at 8 miles per hour. This thing is tied with Laura for the strongest hurricane in the season, third strongest November hurricane on record. It makes its way through Guatemala on up, and then it weakens out back into the Gulf, and now this weekend could become Theta. That's right, and look at the spaghetti plots right now. You can see it's all over the map, but it looks like we will be worrying about this into Wednesday. It'll be interesting to see whether the election is resolved before this is. We're going to get to your local forecast coming up in the next 30 seconds. And that is your latest weather. Feeling very good. Got a little love about the pocket watch from Chuck Todd there.
Chuck Todd is admiring it.
Stylish. I mean,
I want some of Ellen's energy myself. I could really use a little
Of
bit
course,
of that.
you guys were up all night. I got to get that sleep.
All right, guys, so a lot of people are waking up. It is 7:24, and all they want to know is when are we going to know who the next president of the United States is? Will it happen today? Will it happen tomorrow? Will it take...
I'm very skeptical it's going to happen today.
Okay.
Just look at certain vote counts. I'm bullish that we're going to get that it will have some answers in Arizona. I'm bullish that we'll be able to make a call in Wisconsin and Michigan
Today.
I do, but I'm bearish on Nevada. I'm bearish on Georgia. I just think Georgia's going to be something. I think Georgia's going to be the last state we call.
You do?
It could very well be if
Even after Pennsylvania?
well, there's Pennsylvania.
How about North Carolina?
Or as we may start to call it, North Florida. If it wants to, it's going to Florida on us here a little bit. So, look, what do we have? We have, I think, 8 unresolved states plus Alaska. Alaska is another one we're going to have to wait a while because literally the vote takes days to come in. But I just can't imagine anybody getting to 270 today.
Okay. All right. And what about, give us the lay of the land in the Congress, in the Senate and the House?
Well, I mean, what Chuck just laid out there, I mean, I think what we're still really waiting for is going to be control of the Senate, because it's pretty clear right now Biden has a couple paths to get to 270. So in that event, if we have a Democrat in the White House, it's looking more and more likely we're going to have divided government if that happens. Republicans are likely to control the Senate. The question is going to be by how much? And some of those states that are still out, Alaska, we're still keeping an eye on Alaska. Michigan, another one where we are keeping an eye on that as well, although it does look like perhaps the Democrat is closing the gap with his Republican challenger there.
All right, Casey and Chuck, you are not permitted to leave, okay? We just supplied you with more coffee, and we're all gonna need it because this day goes on, much more voting to be done. Our election coverage continues, but first, this is Today on NBC.
Washington feels more chaotic than ever. It's my job to ask the tough questions, left and right, and help you make sense of it all.
You ready to go to work?
I am so ready to go to work.
She's Joe Biden's choice to be next in line. But who is Kamala Harris? Join me, Joy Reid, as I explore her life's journey from